Hi, I haven't done a lot with this channel for a long time, and I was going through my comics, and I just wanted to share some comics perhaps in the future, and that's what I'm doing today. So this is Detective Comics starring Batman, of course, number 530 from 1983. It's dated September, but could be any month. You know how that goes. And this is my very first Batman comic. I must have been six. Batman was something that adults tended to share with kids because they remembered it from their childhood or their teenhood with the 1960s Adam West Batman show. And the merchandising for Batman from the Adam West show was still in full swing in the 1980s. And so I received like Mego Pocket Heroes Batman, the Batmobile. I received a lot of roleplay stuff like the walkie talkies and the batarangs and the bat belt and all that stuff. And so, Detective Comics, I grew up with this comic. This isn't my childhood copy. I had to rebuy it because I can't find my childhood copy, but it's around somewhere. And you see here, it's a Superman 3 movie sweepstakes. I was crazy for Superman movies because of the Christopher Reeve Superman films of the late 70s, early 80s. And you see this is a direct sales version, so it says the new DC. There's no stopping us now. And let's look. And this cover is one of my favorite all time Batman covers. When I think of Batman, I think of this. So this story was written by Doug Munch, and it had Gene Colan pencils, and it was inked by Dick Giordano. It was edited by Len Wein and Nicola Cuddy, and the cover was by Gene Colan, Dick Giordano, and Anthony Tolan. And I love Gene Colan's art for Batman. He, of course, did Tomb of Dracula, among other things. He was very good at creating a moody atmosphere for horror comics and just dark, brooding characters in general. And he's perfect for me for Batman. Here, of course, is the Burger Time home video game version colorful ad that graced a lot of comics in 1983, 84, around there. I love Burger Time probably because of this commercial. I used to like try and draw all these characters and everything. I think this Mattel Electronics logo here is iconic. I remember that from the in television days as well. This font, and I just love this splash page. So this is Nocturna, a very obscure Batman villain. I think now she's like a vampire or something. But back in the day, she was just someone who was involved in some sort of accident that took away the pigmentation of her skin, and she was allergic to the sun or something, and then she basically did her stuff at night. She always wanted the best in life, so she started stealing, and so she's a thief basically. What they did with this character in 83, 84, around there, was they basically made her try to get custody of Jason Todd, who's right here trying to run away, and basically she was a domestic villain for Batman, basically threatening his domestic life. Because Bruce Wayne wanted custody of Jason Todd, and of course this is after Dick Grayson and all that stuff. So I think that Nocturna is fairly well, at least this era of Nocturna is fairly forgotten. And now she's a vampire. I think she turned up in the Batwoman TV series as a vampire. I think the vampire angle is sort of uninteresting because once you say someone's a vampire, then you know their full backstory as just a generic vampire, rather than someone who loves to steal, wants custody of Jason Todd. Like, that's a little bit more interesting, even though a lot of people probably don't care about that story. Here, Batman is testifying against Nocturna's brother, and so he's in the courtroom there with all these jurors looking on. I think this gray and blue Batman is my Batman. It's a lot of people's Batman with the yellow utility belt. All this stuff was heavily marketed to kids and merchandised, as I said. So I love this Batman. I wish they would just bring this back, or at least have this in the live action movies. And here we have a TSR, Star Frontiers. I've never played this game. But this ad was in everything, and I was always intrigued by it. I should track this down and check it out. And here we have an ad for the Sergeant Rock toys of the early 80s, which of course were competing against G.I. Joe, which came out around the same time. I never saw these vehicles in stores. They look awesome, but they look very G.I. Joe-ish. Here we have Joe Kubert art, at least of Sergeant Rock. I don't know if he drew the vehicles, maybe. But all this stuff is well. I didn't know they had so much stuff for Sergeant Rock. I saw the figure around at like the local like Wilco and Zellers and stuff in my neck of the woods. But Remco was definitely a small time toy maker, and you know it was quite a coup for them to get the Sergeant Rock license. And here's Nocturna's cave with all her riches. I love the shading here. It looks very sort of illustrative rather than your typical comic book art. I love the shadowing that Gene Colan does, especially here as well. I think Gene Colan is fairly underrated. I know that he's used by other people. I think he did art for Rob Zombie for his albums as well. And here we have the Bubble Yum commercial with the scrambler and everything. I love this hot air balloon. Uh, like I know this will never ever happen, but I would love for there to be a Nocturna action figure, like a 3 3/4 inch with a hot air balloon play set. I know that will never happen, but it would be cool with this design with the star and the moon, and she could drop bombs and stuff like she's doing here. That would be great. That will never happen, but that's my dream. And here, an owl takes a booby-trapped bracelet and blows up. I love this with Batman looking over Wayne Manor here. I think this inking job was kind of ruined in the digital version. And we have all the typical ads of like, "Do you want muscles in 7 days?" Here's the Superman 3 sweepstakes. And I think the grand prize is like the Atari 5200 Super System. This is just before. Well, I think this is around the time of the crash. To be honest, I think the crash is like 82, 83, and this is 83. I think at this point people are just done with video games until the NES came and rekindled everyone's interest, and they never look back. Um, the second prize is this book, which has a whole slew of Superman stories in it. Uh, I've seen this around for about maybe $50 or less. I might track this down and get this just to see what the second prize was for this. There's also the third prize is the Superman 3 soundtrack. Now, of course, John Williams did the soundtrack of all soundtracks for Superman the movie, but then didn't do 2 and 3. I think it was someone named Ken North who basically did a John Williams impression with some new stuff thrown in. Superman 3, I love it. I mean, I was a kid, I was crazy for Superman. I acknowledge it's not the greatest, but I love everything about it. Really, all four of those movies, Christopher Reeve just carries on his back. I can watch anything Christopher Reeve does. So, Superman 3 has some weird stuff in it, but I still pop it in and enjoy it to this day. Superman Peanut Butter was a big deal in the 80s. It was run by a very small company. I can't even remember the name of it. But it wasn't Skippy or something like that, or Kraft. It was just a small company that made peanut butter and put the license on. Superman was white hot in the 80s. So Superman Peanut Butter sold a lot and then fizzled and died by the end of the 80s. And of course, fifth prize is a 1 year subscription to Superman. And this is the cover of the August edition of Superman. I have this. I just think it's funny that in a house how they just do an illustration of the cover of the comic that came out that time. This is towards the end of the Lexor storyline. Of course, Lex Luthor has his power suit, which became very popular due to the Superpowers toy line that used it. But that super suit was created by Lex Luthor on Lexor to combat Superman. And of course, Lexor blows up, and it's a whole thing. I love that storyline. Here we have a backup tale for Green Arrow. And the way backup tales worked was the Batman stories would continue from Detective Comics into Batman, back to Detective Comics, and back to Batman, etc. But the backup tales for those comics continued in just the title itself. So these backup tales only continue in Detective Comics. And this is what I think of when I think of Green Arrow. Quick paced, throw you right into the action tales. And I remember they did a Green Arrow showcase short for the animation, which was basically that. He was in an airport, he was stuck in a situation where he had to rescue a little girl from these terrorists. And that's the kind of, I don't know if they got that sort of thing from these backup tales, that style, but that's what I think of when I think of Green Arrow. These guys are trying to create World War III, which at the time was perceived as nuclear Armageddon, right? So they're trying to do that, and Green Arrow is it's just constant fighting these guys. It's awesome. And then, and here we have a Vigilante commercial, which is cool because you can actually read all of these headlines in these newspapers about, crime going awry and everything and running amok. And so we need a vigilante. I always perceived as a kid DC to be more adult than Marvel, and this was part of that. And of course, they try to launch these nuclear missiles, and the story, of course, will carry on in Detective Comics. So you have to get Detective Comics to read the rest of the story. This monogram commercial is iconic to me. I don't know where a monogram is today, but they made a lot of model kits and stuff, and advertised a lot in comic books. And now I don't really see them around anymore. But I love this with like Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, and Wolfman. Of course, they license all these likenesses from Universal with these crazy monster eyes. I always thought that was the Wolfman looking down on everything. And here on the back, we have an iconic commercial for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons for Intellivision, Intel Electronics. I love the Intellivision. That was my first system. It was really my dad's system. I realized when I was older, I was like, oh, I think he bought it for himself. But I never had Dungeons and Dragons, but this commercial is iconic to me because it was on the back of a lot of comics. I never understood if that was an eye as well. I know that is as well. This is a weird design for this dragon and this strange bridge. But yes. So I hope you had fun strolling through this comic with me. And I hope to do a lot more of these, so stay tuned. Bye.